Thank you for joining me for this tutorial. In this tutorial, I will be showing you how to make this necklace, specifically showcasing this wire wrap technique for finishing off cords without findings, just using wire. This is an excellent thing to know if you're working with a lot of sterling silver or gold filled wire or other precious metals, so that you don't have to necessarily hunt down and buy those findings for cord ends, because they can be really pricey in those precious metals. And even in the plated metals, why buy it if you can just do it with wire? Anything that we can do as jewelry artists to help keep our costs down, it keeps the costs of our finished work down and allows us to have more business. And so hopefully this will enrich your life and enrich your business and help you to succeed in your efforts as a jewelry maker, whether you're a hobbyist or you're doing this as a business. And I do absolutely give you freedom to sell this design or whatever you want in any of the areas where you may sell jewelry or do whatever. I'm just completely an open book. I'm here just to help and to hopefully enrich your life. That is my desire. It is the motivation of my heart to help people out. And probably only if you know me do you know that I am seriously the kind of corny person who means it 100% when I say things like that, and I'm not faking at all. I've been doing this for about 13 years, and I am truly a teacher at heart. I love to share what I know, and I'm hoping to further the art of jewelry making in the world in general. So thank you for joining me, and I hope that you have a good time. So let's go ahead and get started. Alright, so to make this pendant, you will need to have some wire, probably 6 to 8 inches of wire per wrap. I would recommend 24 or 26 gauge, but because this project is for my husband and I want it to be a bit more masculine, I'm using a thicker gauge wire, but it makes it very difficult, so especially if you're just starting out, use a thinner gauge wire. Various wire working tools. I have my flush cutters, my needle nose pliers with teeth, which I use for crimping wires and whatnot, needle nose pliers that are flat, and then flat nose pliers. I use the two of these pliers together for opening and closing jump rings. A length of cord. I use cotton cord because I live in Arizona where it's extremely dry, and the cotton seems to hold up better long term than leather does. And whatever you are attaching to your cording, which in this case will be a ring, and so what you could do is bend over a loop. It might even be easier for you if you are doing this project for the first time, just to create a wire loop or a cord loop with your wire without having anything attached to it immediately. Then you can just use jump rings to attach a clasp or whatever else you would like to put. So, but for me, it's going to be a little bit harder today for two reasons, because I'm going to be actually attaching something with the cord immediately, and not just using jump rings later, and also I'll be using a thicker gauge wire. So basically what I'm going to be showing you today is the way that you probably don't want to do it, but the techniques are the same. And then optionally, what I use just for extra security is a little bit of fabric glue. This is no heat, no stitch, permanent fabric glue. I just picked it up at Hobby Lobby. Obviously, it wasn't that expensive. And this is what I use whenever I finish cords this way, because we are just using wire to wrap around the cord, and I want a little bit of extra insurance that the cord is not going to slip out. So once this dries, it's permanent, and I haven't had one of these things fail yet. So I'm assuming the wire should be enough to crimp it, but I tend to be a bit nervous about my jewelry, and I like to make sure that everything is as secure as possible. So that should be everything. Oh wait, for my particular project today, I'll be doing attaching this really neat little pendant that I found at Hobby Lobby. It's an archery pendant, and my husband has recently become very interested in archery. So this pendant was in their fairy tale collection. The arrow actually comes out. It's really cool. So I'm creating for him hopefully a very masculine looking necklace, and I'm excited about it actually. So I will be attaching it with some jump rings and going through that process, so you can see that too. So whatever other findings you're using for your particular project, this is more about showing you a technique than a project. I tend to be more technique based than project based. But the first thing that you want to do is come with your cord. Now if you're doing it all by yourself or all by itself, it's very easy. All you do is fold the cord over, glue it, and then wrap wire around it. But I'm going to be dealing with wrapping something around an object immediately. So I'm giving myself a little tail here, and I will come in with my glue and get just a teeny tiny bit of glue on the cord. Not very much at all. When this dries, it dries totally clear. So you don't have to worry about all that white. Now I guess really the smart thing to do would be to let it sit for quite a while before trying to wrap. But I just tend to wrap right away because, I don't know, that's just what I do. So to just, see, then you drop it and it will come apart because it's not dry yet. Pushing this join together, I'm going to come in with some wire and begin the wrapping process. I leave a nice tail so that I have something to sort of balance and hold on to. So here it goes. And this, it doesn't have to be super neat. You can try to go for neat if you want, and that's good if you want to try and do that. But this particular style, I think, lends itself very well to being messy. So we'll just be a bit messy. I tend to be more precise in my work usually, but in this case I'm going for something slightly messier. So what I'm going to do now is take my pliers with the teeth. You can see that I did the tail at first and then wrapped the tail around a little bit, and now I'm going to be using the teeth to crimp this wire. And the teeth actually will grab it and allow me to crimp it without the wire slipping everywhere. And I know that the teeth will put marks on the metal, but honestly at this point I'm not really caring that much. So I'm just sort of creating a messy wrap, and it would be, like I said, it would be a lot easier if I were using a thinner gauge wire. This would not be very much of a struggle at all. I'm struggling a little bit, and you can probably tell. But to finish off the wrap, I will do a couple of neatly done wraps that are close together at the very end. And now I can go ahead and clip that flush with my flush cutter. And go back in with the pliers that have the teeth and squeeze only that little part right there. Then I'm going to bring it back down to make it even. So a lot of this is actually sort of playing with it, and you tweak it here and there. But what I do finally, the last thing I do with one of these wraps, is I kind of go over it with my fingers and make absolutely sure that nothing is sticking out. And if it's good, then I leave it. So I will go ahead and come in and do my next wrap. And I'm going to try to make it as close in size and style as I can to that first one. And make the tails even if I can. If not, I can cut off excess a little bit. But I figure why not start off at least trying to make it even. And so I'll give myself just a bit of wiggle room. And that's where I'll put it. Sorry, I'm just thinking. I'm trying to think at the same time as I'm doing the video. So I'm going to come along in here and do a tiny bit of glue. That was kind of more than I usually like to do. I'll wipe off a little bit of the excess. Okay. And now I sort of look at where I started before, and I'm going to attempt to do the same thing again. Coming in here, the long tail. The second one is a little more difficult if you're wrapping onto something like I am right now. Like I said, this would be a much easier procedure with thinner wire, and if you were just doing kind of an open wrap without having to worry about something that you've already attached. Please pardon the sound of the wire hitting the tripod. So now let me look at where I am. I'm going to start trying to make this similar. So this tail, oh yeah, the tail is actually not flush cut. So I will go ahead and cut that flush so that it's neat and I don't have to do it later. I'll do a little bit of wrapping with my fingers. It's still even. I'm checking to make sure it's even because of the fact that this is attached and it's all together. Again, it wouldn't be that big of a deal if it just wasn't totally, or you know, if it wasn't all connected right next to each other, it wouldn't be that big of a deal. But it kind of is a big deal, so I'm checking. Alright. Making sure again it's basically even. Okay, but now I know this is the base. That's as far down as I want to go. And I will wrap a little bit more. This is, I mean, I don't mean to keep saying it, but gosh, it is so much easier if you use a thinner gauge wire. I think I will not do it like this again. I'm just trying to make them similar in style. That first one looks a little more messy. I'm going to wrap one more time. And then come up and start my neat pieces as the finishing touch. Look at them. Try to make sure they are similar. Yep, they look really good. They're very similar in size, and that's what we want to make it look a little more uniform, because even though this is a messy style, we will do our best to make it even. You know, there's certain things you can get away with, and I think messy so that it's kind of organic looking, but you know, let's make it kind of more even. And now I'm going to look at my tails and trim them so that they're even. And here is where I have a note of caution, because I am not lying. I did another tutorial video for this exact same process already. I already did it. But at the very end of that video, the tail was really long because I had measured it around my husband to get the right length. And at the end of that video, excuse me, instead of cutting the tail, I cut the cord for the neck. So if you have a long tail hanging off for some reason, just check twice which piece are you cutting before you cut. And so hopefully save yourself some grief. So I had to remake the whole video now. And so anyway, I'm going to go ahead and attach my pendant. I can share my foibles with you, and hopefully you can avoid some of my mistakes. But normally, chainmail wisdom is, like if you're making a lot of chainmail, working with a lot of jump rings, what you would do is leave some of them closed, because these usually come closed. But like I said, I had to remake the whole necklace. So I've already opened these. But you leave some of them closed so that the ones in the middle are the closed ones, and then you go in with the open... No. The ones on the outside are closed, pardon me. And then you go in with the open ones only in the middle. So you put your closed ones on your open jump ring, you close it, and then you only had to open a couple of jump rings. And a lot of times, I think those of us who've been doing jewelry for a while, we will subconsciously try to do that. So like I put my big rings here and my little rings here, and then go to try to join little rings in the middle with these two that are already closed, and it seems to help to make less work. But when you're dealing with big pendants, big pieces like this, it can actually be quite difficult to close jump rings even just on these things, because they're hanging everywhere and you're trying to get your pliers in there, and it's really awkward. So what I find is it's best to go, if you have really big jump rings, best to go kind of the path of least resistance. You start off with this. Don't be trying to join this to anything. Just put the jump rings on, so that you don't have to worry about trying to get this just perfect while you're trying to join some other ring in there, and it just becomes nightmarish. So this is where I guess a little bit of experience comes in handy, that as a general rule of thumb, it's good to think of those rules for trying to save yourself some work, but in some cases it's not actually the best. So here you see I'm attaching 2 jump rings instead of just 1, because again, this is for my husband and I'm trying to make a more masculine looking necklace. I absolutely love this pendant. I saw it in the store and I sort of freaked out. Okay, now I'm coming and I'm looking at the way it's going to hang. And I think it would look better hanging this direction, assuming that he's going to put the tails in the front. But he might not. He's probably not going to care. He's going to wear it whichever way. But I think it would look better hanging like that. So I am going, sorry, I hope I wasn't out of frame. I'm going to come in, checking the way it hangs, and then go ahead and stick this on. And it is so much easier to be doing this step with a big jump ring that has a lot of room in there, so that you're not struggling so much with the placement. This thing is really heavy. I don't know if you can tell just from the way it sounds when it hits my desk, but it is an extremely heavy pendant. Very masculine, very, very cool. So here is the finished necklace. And you will probably come up with your own designs, but this is for my husband, my little archery loving husband. And that's the finished necklace. And hopefully you enjoyed this tutorial and learned something and can use some of this advice in your own designs. This, again, I don't know if I mentioned it yet, but this is from the Hobby Lobby Fairy Tale Collection. I believe it was $7 full price, but right now everything is 50% off, so that's when I got it, but I probably would have gotten it even if it wasn't on sale, just because of how perfectly it matches my husband. And it is currently, as of filming this video right now, it is currently late March of 2014. So if it's around that time, you happen to be watching that video soon and you like this pendant a lot and you'd like to pick this up for yourself, you might be able to find it at your local Hobby Lobby, because this is pretty brand new. I haven't seen this ever before. It was just the first time I saw it yesterday when I went shopping. So here it is, and I hope you enjoyed the tutorial, and if you make anything, I would absolutely love to see pictures. I would love for you to send me pictures of any of the work that you've done, maybe where you use this technique, and hopefully you have great success in everything that you try to do. I'll see you next time.